If you're determined to age well, then you, my friend, are in the right place, because that's why we're here, to age well. Bloody well, in fact. Welcome to the Aging Project podcast. I'm Shelley Craft, your host and fellow ager. And in each episode, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to age well, learning from experts around the world and, of course, from each other. Why? Because aging well doesn't just happen, my friends, and each of us needs and deserves a support team. So you can think of us as your tribe or perhaps your cheerleaders. We're here to stand by your side, to propel you forward and spark yes you can choices at every age. We'd love for you to join our growing community. In fact, we're calling it a movement. And of course, try our free 5-day morning challenge over at theagingproject.com. It is a great place to start your aging journey. And this is a great place to kick off today's episode, brought to you by youmusttryit.com, where you'll find supplements, skincare and makeup. We've tried it, we've tested it, and we love it, and it's all in one place.
I'm loving falling in love with me right now. You know, I've given myself permission, at least for the next 12 months. I just want to be in relationship with me, and I'm getting to know who I am, and I am falling in love with her every single day, and I am loving myself more and more for it.
That was Josie Thomson, and you guessed it, today we're talking self-love. Why? Because on day one of our 5-day morning challenge, which is free, by the way, at theagingproject.com, we ask a simple question to everyone who joins, and that question is, what does aging well mean to you? And too often we have read comments like this. Aging well means loving who I am. Aging well means accepting who I am. And these comments have us asking why so many women spend their life believing that they're not enough. So for every generation, we want this to change. Don't you think it's time that we model unconditional love? Enough of picking on ourselves or avoiding the mirror, putting ourselves down, wishing that we were smarter, happier, better, thinner, younger, more outgoing, more. Ladies, you are absolutely enough. And to help us unpack this topic and hopefully to give you some faith in yourself, we asked Josie Thomson, a multi-award-winning coach, speaker, trainer, author, and mother of 2, to come on the show. Josie, it's so wonderful to have you here to talk about self-love.
It's really great to be here and such an important topic to talk about.
What about you, Josie? What comes to mind when we say, I guess first, what does aging well mean to you?
I'll tell you what it's not. What it's not is the lack of wrinkles and, you know, looking perfect and being the perfect version of a woman or of yourself that you think you need to project out into the world. Aging well is absolutely loving the skin you're in and loving who and how you're showing up in the world every single day.
So, Josie, how do we get to that point? How do we get to that point? You make it sound romantic. You make it sound like it just comes naturally. But for so many people, it's probably the hardest thing in the world that they're ever going to even attempt to go about doing is loving themselves.
Totally. Like even when I was listening to your introduction, I was sitting here and like part of me was going, you know, we know all the words and we know we ought to love ourselves and we know that we apparently need to already know how to love ourselves. We just don't do it. But there's a lot of factors to this. And I mean, I've had cancer a few times. And if there's ever going to be a huge wake-up call to love yourself, it's like a massive bolt of awakening by your body that is screaming, yelling for your attention. And for me, every single time it's happened, it was my body saying, hey, remember me? right? This vehicle that's taking you through your whole life, who wakes you up every day, who has a heartbeat and allows you to breathe every single day. How the hell are you treating me? Right? That is where self-love starts.
I hope we all don't need a kind of a bolt of lightning like that to make us realize. But for you, can you share a bit more of your backstory and how you are sitting where you are today, talking to us with such authority on self-love?
Absolutely. Like, this is not it's a hard won journey. It's one that you earn. I don't think, like, as kids, they just love who they are. They love the skin they're in, and they're so happy just being who they are until adults start interfering and saying, quiet down, tone that down, don't be so loud, shh, don't make so much noise, don't be silly, look at so and so. And you start this comparison with the world outside of yourself. And I think that's the greatest thing that changes. Up until about 6 or 7, we're good. And then the world starts interfering with our authentic, unique expression of who we are in the world. And then we go into these institutions that tell us how we need to think and how we need to behave to get along in life. And, at some point in time, if it's out of alignment with your authentic self, your body comes to your rescue. When these things happen, the thing that I've learned is that when my body has given me cues to wake up and start to consider that perhaps the way I'm living life isn't really in my own best interests, that's when I've had to perceive my connection with myself, with my body, and reprioritize what I was doing with my life. Instead of putting everyone else first, I realized that even though it wasn't modeled for me, my mother is the most amazing mama in the whole world. I mean, you only get one, right? And she is someone that I tremendously love and respect. She also modeled to me what self-sacrifice and martyrdom looks like. She would take the shirt off her back to help anyone who was in need. And God bless her for that. It's amazing. But the thing that I've learned, and the thing that I teach a lot of my clients, is that any strength, so your caring, your compassion, your thoughtfulness, your kindness, any strength, when overused, becomes a weakness, right? And the one thing that I've learned is that every time we say yes to someone else, think about who you're saying no to. And we don't even think about it because our giving orientation is so big and so fierce. We're here to serve. We're here to make a difference. We're here to lighten the load for everybody else. But at what expense? Where's that line where you need to actually take care of you too along the way?
So for you, that conversation with yourself must have been like a slap in the face, was it? Was it, I mean, obviously getting a cancer diagnosis and then having the inner strength to turn around and ask how you did that to yourself. I imagine that was a fairly intense internal conversation.
It was an awakening. We kind of take life for granted. We take our bodies for granted. We take time for granted. And then when something like that appears, it's like it shocks you into a new reality. It's something that you don't consciously choose for yourself. However, the micro decisions and choices you make along the way have an impact on the outcome and the quality of your life and where you end up. So for me, my first cancer was here in the throat area, and that was all about finding my voice. That was all about saying no, setting boundaries, not being afraid of people not approving of me or not liking me because I didn't want to do what they wanted me to do. They didn't, that I was being someone that they didn't want me to be. It's like, well, hey, it's my life. But it's something that I wasn't consciously aware of. I was only 24 at the time, the first time, back in 1991. And I'd never heard of, well, I actually had heard of cancer, but it was quite rare in 91. You know, there was a distant relative that had had breast cancer, but I didn't know anybody else that had had it. No one in the family had ever had it. I was super fit, never drank, never smoked. This was not on my cards of consideration. And then all of a sudden, getting this diagnosis, it was a wake-up call. Everything that I had believed about life and how life was meant to manifest was now up for negotiation.
And so how did you actually work through that? Obviously, there would have been treatments involved, but was it really having that affirmation, that conversation with yourself every single day that got you to where you are today?
The turning point for me was when I realized that I wasn't living my life on my own terms. I was living life with lots of obligation and duty, trying to please and appease and win the approval of people that I loved and respected. And I was also leading my life with a set of rules and beliefs that had been handed to me, but I hadn't really chosen them myself. I hadn't really mulled them over and gone, yeah, that I believe that. Whereas, I was given a set of beliefs and I thought, okay, that's how you do life. That's my religion. That's how it is. But all of a sudden, I got to ask some pretty big questions. But more importantly, I got to seek my own truth. And as those puzzle pieces came together, the biggest shift for me was I decided to live my life on my terms, according to my truth. So I left everything that was familiar to me. I moved into state. I didn't know anyone here. I changed my diet. I changed my environment. Everything had to change from the inside out, not from the outside in. So the treatments I was offered, I only went along with a couple of options. And after the first chemo treatment, I stopped. And the hospital was like, you can't stop. And I said, well, watch me. I just felt my body immediately gave me feedback that said, this doesn't feel right. It didn't taste good. And I could sense death, and it was good because I was 24 and I didn't know a lot about cancer. So what I didn't know, I was naive and beautifully naive. And so I went and bought every book I could about cancer. Why did I get it? How did I get it? How do you fix this? And I ended up with more questions than answers. And what I realized was for the first time in my whole life, I had to tune in to me and seek the answers from here, from within me, not out there. And as I've been progressively aligning my thoughts, my words, my choices with my own North Star, look, I'm still here. I've defied the odds. They gave me 6 months 23 years ago.
Have you joined our 14-day challenge over at theagingproject.com? Our 14-day challenge program is our tried and tested blueprint for feeling your best and aging well. It's perfect for anyone whose health has veered a little off track. You will get 14 daily lessons, which are videos and downloads. You'll receive our go-to recipe book with our favorite recipes. There's also a team of coaches inside the program and our 5,200 Life in Weeks calendar. So much more. Are you still on the fence? Well, here's some recent testimonials from women inside the challenge. This one from Julie. She says, "Oh my goodness, thank you for such an informative and entertaining sequence of lessons. I'm going through the content slowly, scribbling notes, and have started implementing lots of your advice. A huge thank you. The program has been so valuable. It's the health reset I needed." Thank you so much, Julie, for doing it and, of course, sending in that wonderful testimonial. This is another one. This has been a wonderful 14 days. It took me longer than 14 days, but I have made every change from the lessons. This platform, the podcast, and the ability to do the challenge have literally changed my trajectory, putting me back on track to enjoy another 43 years. Then I will be 100. The information is relevant no matter your age or gender, really. Thank you so much. Cassandra, we thank you so much. This heartfelt testimonial is the reason why we created the challenge to change the trajectory of women's health. Thank you for being a part of it. So, to anyone who would love to give it a go, jump over to theagingproject.com and sign up for our 14-day challenge. Remembering you can take 14 days, or you can take 14 hours, or you can take 14 weeks to do it. You do you. I cannot wait to see you inside the program. Obviously, the turning point for you was listening to your inner voice, and I imagine that inner voice would sometimes disappear and you might feel abandoned by yourself. How did you keep telling yourself things? Was it sort of a fake it till you made it sort of scenario? I will just keep telling myself that I'm going to be okay, that I'm going to get through this, that I am worth being here. Or did you have a sort of a set program that you followed, like I'm going to wake up this way, I'm going to follow this routine? How did you sort of structure your day around saving yourself?
I wish there was just a simple instruction sheet that I could give.
10 steps to surviving?
I can give you a template, right? But there's a number of factors that will determine whether that template is going to be successful for you or not. And I've done a lot of work with cancer and leukemia patients. It's part of what I do, and like just this morning, I had a phone call from a guy that I met at a presentation I did recently, and he said, "Will you please talk to my mum?" And I said, "Why do you want me to talk to your mum?" And he said, "Last week she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and she's at work today." I went, okay. So we had a 3-way conversation, and this woman's just beautiful. I think she was in her 50s, beautifully dressed, at work, at a busy location. Her son's there on the screen, and there's this 3-way conversation, and she's telling me how busy she is and how she's got to get back to work. And I'm like, okay.
I've seen ladies like you before.
I was that person. I was that one that kept giving, kept serving, kept pushing myself, kept burning out and putting myself last. And the only time that my body got my attention was when it stopped me in my tracks, when I had no choice but to stop and to rest and to give it attention. But why is it that we have to get to that extreme position before we care enough to take care of ourselves?
And you're saying a lot of that comes from conditioning, and again, no fault of our parents or our grandparents, but it is what we hear from them and how we process what they're saying. So this does start at a very early age. It was interesting. My daughter said to me this morning, she said, "Mum, you know that the next generation born will be the first ones to acknowledge doubt from a young age." She said, "Kids that were born, you were born, and when I was born, all we feared was falling and dying, and that was it." And she said, "And the next generation of kids are going to be worried about their appearance, and they're going to learn that very early on." I was like, I'm not sure where she's getting information, but I could understand that if that's the language that kids are hearing all the time, whether it be from home, those words that are spoken to kids very, very early on are processed differently to how you would process that information as an adult. But by the time you become an adult, the system's already in gear, isn't it? And that language is already so deeply ingrained in your mind.
I think it's even bigger than that. If you look at, our brains are very, very visual. So if you just look around, have a look at the advertising, have a look at the commercials on TV, have a look at what pops on your electronic devices. Look at how we are presented. These commercials with picture perfect images of how you're meant to look. I still remember when my daughter was in grade 1, she came home and she said, Mummy, I'm fat. I need to go on a diet. And I'm like, what? Where did you get that from, sweetheart? And I had to just moderate because, I've studied masters in neuroscience, and the way we communicate is really important, not just what we say out loud, but what we say inside to ourselves, because every cell in your body is listening, right? Anyway, I sat her down and I said, sweetheart, tell me, where did this come from? Oh, my friend said that I've got fat legs, and so I've got to go on a diet. And I thought about this and I thought, how do I approach this without making her feel wrong or bad, right? And so I sat her down. I said, come here, darling. And I sat her down next to me. I said, put your leg next to my leg. And so she put her little leg next to my leg. And I said, whose leg is fatter? She goes, oh, yours is. And I said, so do you think I need to go on a diet? She goes, Mummy, you're beautiful. No. And straight away, that's all you have to do is get them to think differently, put some sort of distortion in that program so that they can look at it and go, oh, so maybe I'm not fat. But you can't say it. Like, I can sit here and argue with you until I'm blue in the face and say, you are beautiful, you are beautiful, you are beautiful. And if you don't believe it, there is no way you're going to adopt that. It's the same with affirmations. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it. I'm beautiful. I'm competent. I'm whatever you want to say. I'm confident. If you don't believe those words, there's this little antenna in the brain called the reticular activation system. And I call it the bullshit detector. If that goes off, you're not going to align with what you're saying, right? So if there's any challenge that you're facing in life, and one of the challenges that a lot of people face, not just women, that all people face, is this thing called self-love. Go for self-like.
Okay, don't aim so high. Just start simple.
Yeah, that's right. Like, think about, how do you treat someone that you like, right? How do you talk to someone that you like? What do you do for someone that you like, right? Think about that. And then just pause for a minute without beating yourself up and go, so how am I treating me? Right? Just start there. Just decide, today I'm going to get into a different relationship with me, and I'm going to start to look for what there is to like about myself. Just one thing.
And that can be your self-drive or your commitment to your job or your family, doesn't it? You don't have to throw all of those things out the window and say it's all about me. Because I know when we were kids, it was like, oh, that girl, she loves herself. She loves us. And it was a really derogatory phrase that we used, back in my day. But now you see someone who actually has a lot of self-love, you're like, you go, girl, you got this. And it's quite extraordinary. We there are those people in our spheres, in our lives, or on the telly, or, whoever we see that we admire, that probably do have a damn lot of self-love going on.
I think there's self-love and there's self-love. There's this, it's almost this graceful self-love where I don't have to flaunt it. I can just be me, and I'm okay being me. I actually like who I am. And if you don't like me, I actually don't care. It's not my business whether you like me or not. I don't need you to like me, because I like me. And I'm not saying it in an arrogant way at all. I'm saying it in a genuine way. I actually like how I show up every day. I like who I am in the world. I like who I am when I'm with people. I don't try to pretend to be someone I'm not, right? But I approve of being uniquely me. And it's not selfish. It's not egoic. It's not hurtful or harmful to anyone else. I'm not comparing with anyone else. That's the key. The only comparison you make is, have I improved on myself since last year? Have I learned something? Have I grown in some way since last year? How am I approaching this situation better compared to this time, last time this happened? That's the only comparison. It's with yourself, not with other people.
So, Josie, it does take practice. Like everything, practice makes permanent.
Well, is there a permanent? Is there really a permanent if we're on an ever growing evolutionary? Like if you stop growing, you die, right? You get there and then there's another there to get to, but it's not like a standard. It's kind of like, how do you put this? Like with every adversity that I've faced, I've always asked myself, I stop when I start feeling sorry for myself and I start going, why is this happening to me? That's normal to have those thoughts, but they don't last long because what you do is you kind of feel that and go, how's that helping me? It's not. So you've got to ask a different question. So the question I asked for me is what am I being invited to learn here? How can I grow? Now, when I ask how can I grow, there's two choices. You can either grow bitter or better, right? You grow bitter when you get into argument with what's going on, that you say, this shouldn't have happened, this shouldn't be happening to me. And when you argue with reality, you will lose every time. But when you soften and go, this is pretty shit, right? There's many things that have contributed to getting to this situation right now. But how am I being invited to grow? How do I need to do things differently?
Where do you do that for yourself? Is it an in the mirror situation? Do you need to actually look at yourself square in the face sometimes? Or is it enough to just sit with yourself and contemplate a situation that's just unfolded? Do you have, again, any keys to how to open that conversation more easily with yourself? Because I know a lot of us would just block it out and push on through, and if I don't acknowledge it, it will go away.
It doesn't go away. That's the problem. When you don't acknowledge it, it gets blocked. And unfortunately, what happens, and I know this from personal experience, when you block stuff, it gets blocked in your body. And then what happens? It becomes an energy block, which then becomes dis-ease, right? And then it becomes a bigger problem to deal with. So the first way to start to get in touch with yourself and start to get to know who you are, what you're thinking, what's important to you, grab a pen and a journal, make it a really nice journal that's really lovely to look at and touch, that feels good, and start writing. And even if you write, I don't know what I'm meant to be writing here today, blah, 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 all of a sudden you just start dumping what comes to you. And the idea is don't judge it, don't overthink it. Just write what's coming to you. What are you thinking about? What are you feeling right now? Right? And just dump it onto paper and you're looking at it and you're going, wow, I didn't realize that was all there. And you start to build relationship with yourself, because what I've realized is that we busy ourselves so much to distract ourselves from feeling uncomfortable emotions. But the thing is that these emotions are temporary, they're not permanent, but they become long lingering because we're denying them. We're rejecting them. And so they lodge themselves. And in a moment of stillness, it comes up even bigger and stronger than it would have been if you just attended to it at the time. So all we need to do is soften, drop the guard, and just give attention to that part of you that just wants you to acknowledge its existence. Just be with it. Don't judge it. Don't reject it. Don't deny it. Just be with it. And eventually what happens is you get to understand it. And underneath it is this beautiful lesson that actually gives you wisdom and strength to keep going and to keep growing.
It sounds like intuition, that amazing, I guess, ability to sit with yourself and just listen. But obviously, as you know, there is extraordinary neuroscience behind why this works as well. What is it that goes on in our brain when we have negative thoughts, and what happens when we turn those to positive thoughts in a scientific fashion?
So intuition doesn't happen in the brain. Intuition happens in the body, right? The brain is what messes us up, right? The brain is where all our unconscious programs are, all our beliefs, all our history, all our habits, all our reactions, they all come from here. And the primary goal of the brain is safety. And that primary orientation can have us do and say things that we may regret later on if we're not being mindful and thoughtful of the consequence beyond this present moment. So even though I'm feeling discomfort right now, even though someone's walked in the room and I just want to tell them where to go, I could do that, but it's going to have consequence. So that limbic part of our brain that's very reactive and all about keeping you safe and protected is likely to have you behave in ways that you may regret later on. But if you can maintain a sense of calm and observe the fact that, oh, I'm feeling really uncomfortable now that that person's in the room, I need to remove myself because I don't feel safe. So you can see you still get the same message, danger, danger, Will Robinson, but instead of reacting, you're taking charge of yourself and realizing you've got choice. You can hit out or you can actually leave and do what's right for you and remove yourself from that situation that doesn't feel safe for you.
So it's actually about growing your inner voice, isn't it? Because we all hear it, we all know it's there. And as you say, often we'll ignore it, we'll push it to the back, we'll try something else, we'll put on the smiley face, or we'll strike out. You're saying actually have the faith to believe in yourself that through your gut, you know what the right thing to do is for you, not for anyone else, but for you. It always comes back to doing what's right for you and stuff how that makes other people feel at the time, because you got to look after yourself.
Yeah. There's two parts of that. One is actually feeling the message in your body that says something doesn't feel right here. That's the first part. And then the second part is having a little conversation with that part of you and saying, what do I need right now? I need to feel safe. Okay, so if I stay here, will I feel safe? Hell no. So you know the answer straight away, right? So if I leave, is that going to make me feel better? Actually, yes. So it's a gentle yet certain and confident decision to trust that intuition that we are so disconnected from when we're busy up here. Trying. The intuition's like that. The body, right, is always right here, right now, in present time. The brain is very rarely there.
I'm letting that sit for a moment, because often you do. I lead with my tongue. I've just got to sit with that for a moment.
Just go to where that discomfort is. Sometimes it's in the belly. Sometimes it's a racing chest. Sometimes it's, a block in your throat. Sometimes you get a bit of a headache. Sometimes you get some shaky hands. You just observe. Don't freak out. Just observe. Okay, my hand's starting to shake. So hand, what's your message for me? Get me the hell out of here. Okay. And you know what? I'm responsible for me. This is my life, right? I'm taking charge. And this is what I'm going to do for me. And so I don't need to be mean or nasty about my leaving. I can just say to the people that are there, listen, I need to leave right now. We'll catch up next week. I don't need to go into story. I don't need to go into explanation. I just need to honour my own needs and leave.
Josie, how do we build this into our everyday? Because obviously it's going to take some conscious thought to start. I wake up and before I even open my eyes, I say, I'm awake, thank goodness. Thank you very much for giving me another day. And then I say, I don't matter what the weather is like, I'm here, this is going to be great. Is this something that I should build into my morning gratitude practice? Today I'm going to be very kind to myself. I'm going to listen to my inner voice. I think we're after sort of steps on how to build this beautiful inner confidence and self-love.
Okay, so too many words gets confusing, right? We've all got too many things already that we're trying to remember and think about and do, right? Set an intention, right? When you wake up of a morning and you say thank you, which is always my first words, thank you for another day. And always at the end of the day, thank you for another day, right? And then I'm like, so what kind of day do I want to have today? Choose one word, and prime yourself from the morning. So, we're doing this every single day and we don't even know we're doing it. When you wake up of a morning, when you say to yourself, oh, here we go again, guess what? There you go again. You're having another one of those days. But if you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a good day today, what happens in the background? It's called priming. We're doing it every single day and we're not even aware of it. What happens in the background? The brain starts to look for data to reinforce that intention that you set in the morning, right? It's difficult to say something like everything's going to go to plan today because that's actually unrealistic because there's too many uncontrollable factors that are going to impact that outcome. But what's something you can absolutely have command over is your attitude. How you choose to show up today. I'm going to have a happy day today. So if something really crappy happens, it's like, wow, what's the good thing in this? Like I had a client this morning whose boyfriend broke up with her. And I looked at her and she was pretty upset. And I said, can you give me one reason why this is actually a good thing? And she had to just go for a second. She sat there and just went, and I won't use the same language that she used.
Oh, please do. We're all grown-ups here.
I don't like using the words. And she said, he was so effing selfish. He rarely put me first. And I went, okay, there's one reason. Give me another one. And I could see that this was a toxic relationship and very codependent. But in coaching, the most effective way to get someone into a space of self-empowerment that's actually sustainable is to help them think differently, to get into their brain and get them to question some of the programs that are going in their brain. Because when they rewrite them, guess what? They get to keep the new program. But if I just say, you've got to leave him, he's toxic, he's dependent, he's using you, she's going to get defensive, probably never come back. But if someone kind of gets there in their own way, in their own time, then the light bulbs go on and the programs start to shift. And if the programs shift, they don't repeat the pattern because the pattern's been broken. And so she ended up with 8 reasons why it was actually a good thing. And so by the end of it, she's smiling and going, oh, thank goodness. But, you've got to also grieve because every breakup, there is a grief. There is a loss. No, I've never seen one great breakup that's been a joyful party initially. When I broke up with my ex last year, I was very sad for about, this is going to sound horrible, for about 2 hours.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 15 minutes. At 2 hours, that's still, yeah.
But I let myself feel it, and it was really real because there was genuine goodness in there. But then after that time, it was like this, oh, wow, I can breathe. Wow, where did that come from? Why? And then I did this whole process, journaling and thinking it through and seeing it more clearly and going, wow,
Recently on the podcast, we met functional dentist Dr. Stephen Lin, who spoke about the benefits of a few products like vitamin D with K2, magnesium, mouth taping, and organ supplements. So over at You Must Try It, we have these available for you. We love the Primal Energy Women's Formula because of its quality ingredients and its tastelessness. If you missed the episode, The Future of Dentistry is here. Check it out after you finish this one. And for any of the supplements mentioned, like the ones above, you can visit youmusttryit.com to learn more. So even for someone as experienced as yourself, it still takes practice. It still takes moments. It still takes time. This isn't just a given. This isn't a recipe for self-love. This is an ever-evolving, ever-changing conversation that we're having with ourselves.
Here's the thing. The universe ups the ante. So just when you think you've broken that pattern, you get tested again, but in a different shape, right? Looks different, but the pattern underneath it's the same. right? And it's the breakthroughs that you have every time. What I saw was this pattern of over cooperating and over compromising, and realizing actually, I'm never, ever going to compromise that ever again. But I can see that now with such clarity, right? But at the time while I was in it, I could feel this contraction within myself that something wasn't quite right, but I couldn't put my finger on it because there was still a lot of goodness there, right? But with the clarity of distance, all of a sudden I could see, wow, there were aspects of myself that I've negotiated that really ought never to be negotiated. And so I can see that clearly now. So God help anyone who tries again.
I'm sure there will be. And there's a lot of love left to give. There's no doubt.
You know what? I'm loving falling in love with me right now. I've given myself permission, at least for the next 12 months. I just want to be in relationship with me. And I'm getting to know who I am. And I am falling in love with her every single day. And I am loving myself more and more for it.
So what does Josie love to do?
She loves to just be herself. She loves to get up of a morning, do her nature walk, do some stretching, do some journaling, do a little bit of meditation. She loves helping people. She loves her puppy dogs. She loves sitting in the sun with her cup of tea every day. There's so much that I love. Simple practices that just fill me up from the inside out. Life is just so good.
Oh, you're a beautiful lady. You are. You're a little ray of sunshine that you're spreading to all of us, and saying that just even having a cup of tea, if that's what you want to do, that is an expression of self-love, because often we wouldn't give ourselves that time in a day.
And that word sunshine for me means a lot. And even if the skies are grey like they are today, I am my own sunshine.
Oh, you're bringing it. You are. Yes.
So, there's dark and stormy people that come into your life, and I let them be them. I remember one time I said to my son one Friday night, hey, honey, you want to come to meditation with me? And he is so sweet. He looked at me and he went, Mum, you do you, I'll do me. And I sat there and I couldn't stop laughing, and I thought, that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've taught him well. He's like, that's not my love language to myself, Mum, sitting quietly in a room with my eyes closed.
So when I meet people that are a bit edgy and they prickle my aura, in my mind I say, Josie, let them be them, you be you. Don't dim your light for their moods.
Fantastic. We want to leave our listeners today with a choice, with a micro choice. What's one tiny thing they can do, whether they're listening in their car, whether they're on a walk and this is the first thing that they're hearing this morning? What's one Josie lesson for them to take away today to start their self-love journey?
So one of the things that I've learned is that we respond to sound and music and movement, right? So one of the things that you can do every single day is find your happy song, some happy music that you can play, that every time you play it, it makes you smile. You can feel your heart smiling. And even better if your body wants to do a bit of movement with it. Like, give yourself the treat of singing or dancing and attuning with that vibration of your happy song. And notice how your whole frequency starts to lift.
I love that. I do. I have a couple of go-to songs that make me feel like that. I also have a photo that I use that whenever I see it, it triggers a smile on my face. And it's it wasn't a particular event. It's just a random photo, but it's something that I go to whenever during the day I'm like, oh, that's not quite right. That always brings a smile to my face. So that would be one that I would recommend to our listeners as well.
Well, I have, when my alarm goes off, my alarm is actually a Nana Muscuri song called Turn on the Sun, right? And it's a song that my mum and dad used to play when I was a little girl. And it's just...
My mum plays that too.
Song. And so when it goes on, I can feel my body in the bed going, you know. And when I was with my ex, I would do that and I'd start singing and he would roll over, put the pillow on his head. And I'm like, you're not my person.
Babe, you're not for me.
But I didn't realize how important it was.
That's a great one. So set your alarm. I love this. Set your alarm to your favorite song. Now we're drilling down. Now we're getting serious on this. Set your alarm to your favorite song. So before you even know that you're awake, you've already got the jig.
Turn on the sun.
I know the one. Oh, I do laugh. This is a little aside and we can edit it out if you like. But when iTunes first came about and I was setting up my mum's playlist, Nana Muscuri, Demis Roussos, they were on there. And now I cannot get them out of my phone. So every so often up pops a Nana Muscuri song and I'm going to think of her and now I'm going to think of you as well, Josie. That's beautiful.
The other one that I love for me, like I love Freddie Mercury and I've got quite an intimate relationship with Freddie. And the day he died was the day I came home from hospital the first time and I didn't really know of Freddie Mercury or Queen that well back then. But I remember standing with my back to the radio and this announcement came on that the lead singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury, had just died of AIDS. And every hair on my body just stood up and I started bawling and I'm like, what is going on? Who the hell is Freddie Mercury and why do I care? But that was the beginning of a very big story, which I'll tell another time. But since then, what I've discovered is there's hidden messages in a lot of his songs. And the one song that always connects me back to my body and self-love is Born to Love You. And when I play that song, I imagine that this is actually my body singing to me. And it brings me to tears every single day if I listen to that song, because it's like my body has been trying to unconditionally love me from the day I was born, you know? And I haven't given it the same unconditional love in return, although I'm far more intentional now, having died again last year and come back, right? I don't need another morning. I get it now. I really get it now. So that Born to Love You has really enriched my relationship with my body.
It's a little external trigger rather than the internal one that sometimes you may need, or hopefully, as you say, you will not need that again.
It connects you back to you. Whatever brings you back to you. If you play a happy song, if you look up at the sun and you smile, that's bringing a smile to your inner self. And that's who you really are. You're not your title. You're not your job. You know, you're not the roles you play in this life. You know, you are that essence that you're sharing with the world every single day.
Is there a book that you'd like to share with us, Josie? Is there something that you go to again when you need those little reminders, or something that you have found really powerful in your journey?
There's a couple of books I would recommend. One is this book here, which I wanted to show you. If you haven't read it, you really need to read it. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's amazing. And he's also got one called Living a Life of Surrender. And those two books have had profound impact on me. And if you're wanting the science, I actually wrote a book with one of the leading neuroscientists in the whole world, Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, and Kleiner, called The Wise Advocate, the inner voice of strategic leadership. And this is all about connecting into that voice inside that always knows the right thing to do, right? If only we would listen.
Those three will go to the top of our list. Thank you very, very much. What is your affirmation? Just, I'm going to have a good day. It's going to be a good day. The sun's shining.
I think the one that's always stuck with me is what will be is up to me. It's such a simple little thing. But, you know, the way my day plans out, it's up to me. Like, I can't control what's going to happen around me, but I get to control how I respond to it, right? So I always look at life that is so unpredictable, but I know I can handle what comes up. It might be hard. And sometimes, to grow our wings, we've got to battle a little bit. But that's how we get our strength and our wisdom, through those trials. We become more of who we were born to be.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your honesty and your sunshine, and just, I guess, really an easy way. I think we all think it's going to be really hard to find that self-love, but the way that you've been able to describe it to us today is it's not that hard. You're a beautiful person, and everyone deserves to be loved, even if it's just from their own self. And I think that's the big thing, isn't it? Once you do love yourself, then love for others comes much easier.
Yeah, we do deserve it, but we don't always believe it, So start by liking, start by deciding, you know what, I want to change my relationship with me. So I'm going to find one thing to like about myself today, and I'm going to focus on that. And then tomorrow I'll pick something else. And it slowly grows. The relationship starts to grow, because whatever you focus on grows. That saying, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're so busy looking for everything that's wrong with you, look at what you're growing. So we need to turn that around and start looking for what's okay with you.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you so much for your time today. I know that our people are going to want to connect with your people. Where's the best place to find you?
On my website, I have a free monthly newsletter, Josie Thomson with no P, .com, and I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well.
We will see you there. Thank you, Josie. Have a great day.
You're welcome.
Well, that was a beautiful conversation. If I do say so myself, I loved speaking to Josie. So, Josie, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with our audience. I do hope today's conversation has given each of you some ideas on how to cultivate more self-love, because we all deserve to feel self-love, but often outside influences trick our brains to think otherwise. Of all the things we can model to future generations of girls, I think this has to be in the top 3, at least. So when you look in the mirror tonight, look into the eyes of the woman rather than at the flaws that you see on your changing face. So here's to more self-love, to more self-acceptance for each of us, because bloody hell, we are all fabulous. And if this is something that you struggle with, I suggest you start small, but do start building those self-love muscles. And if someone hasn't told you recently, you, my friend, are more than enough. Thank you so much for listening. It's been wonderful having you here. I'm Shelley Craft, and remember Josie's affirmation, what will be is up to me. I'm off to listen to some Nana Muscuri. I'll check in with you all soon. Have a great week. A final thing before I go. If you enjoyed today's episode, can I ask 2 small things of you? Can I ask you to share it with someone you love? We would be so grateful for your support and help to spread the aging well message far and wide. We want everyone aging well alongside us. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the podcast, it helps more than you know and means you'll never miss an episode. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm Shelley Craft, and this, my friends, has been another episode of The Aging Project. As always, the Aging Project podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes. Always seek medical advice from a qualified practitioner.